And we're going to begin exploring multiples, and factors, right? We're going to explore these two this week because they're going to help us with long division. Okay? So, today, the game plan, this is our plan for today. We're going to start off by refreshing our brains. What are multiples? Okay? Then, we're going to get into how can we find multiples. What are the different strategies that I can use to find multiples? We're going to do some practice. After we do some practice together, you're going to do a Mars test. And it involves number riddles, okay? You're going to have to solve a puzzle using multiples, okay? And at the end, probably for homework, you're going to write your own number riddle, and tomorrow when you come back in, you'll exchange them in your groups and you'll solve each other's. So let's begin right here. Let's begin by defining the word multiples, okay? As you're heading in your notes, you should write exploring multiples. Now, let's take a look at this word multiples. What words does multiple remind you of? What words does it remind you of? Oscar? Multiply. Multiply is one, right? What other words can you see in there? Stephanie? I'm not even sorry. Emily? Multi. Anything else? Lisa? Multiplication, right? So, we see these words that are part of the same family, right? They all have the multi in it. And so that's a clue. For what multiples are. Multiples in your brain, you should be thinking, they have something to do with multiplication, right? Or when we multiply, okay? And when we started our unit on multiplication, we went through the vocabulary, right? We went through this vocabulary for multiplication and for division. Let me see who has a good memory and who remembers what are multiples. Remember they have something? Let's say I have 4 times 5 equals 20. Who can tell me what is the multiple in this equation? What is the multiple in this equation? Tart. Remember, multiple is the product. Okay? So what is the multiple in this equation here? 20. So let's label this in our notebooks. This is the multiple. Just in case we need reminders when we're doing our homework, you have your notebook at home with you, right? Okay. So 20 is considered the multiple. Again, for today's lesson, we're going to focus on this part, okay? The multiples. And now we're going to move on to how do we find these multiples? How do we find them? What strategies can I use to find them? Okay? So, we understand that multiples are the products. The products or the answers when we multiply. Okay? Now we're going to move on to our strategies. Okay? So that's our next section in our notes, are the strategies. The strategies to finding multiples. Strategies to find multiples. Okay? Children, believe it or not, you've already seen multiples plenty of times. Practically every night when I told you to study for your quiz drills, you've seen multiples before in your timetable chart, okay? These here are the multiples of 2. So if I had to ask you, what are the multiples of 2? What are the multiples of 2? You could just look at the chart and look at all the products, right? You've also seen them when we use this table, okay? If I were to ask you, what are the multiples of 4? How can you use this table? How can you use this table to find the multiples of 4? Ricardo.
On top, there are the numbers, so we go to the 4 and then go down.
Good. So I go and look for the number 4 and go down the column. And these are my multiples of 4. Okay? Yalitza, you have another way? Okay?
If there's a 4 on the other side, just look for the 4 and...
It's really hard, right? Because it's dark. So I look for the 4, yeah?
And then go across.
And go across the row. Good. So we can find the multiples of 4 by either looking for the row of 4 or the column of 4. Okay? And then you would say the multiples of 4 are 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, 40. Okay? The multiples of 2. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. Okay? But, you know what, children? If we use these, are we exercising our brain?
No.
No. We want our brain to be strong, right? Because it's a muscle. And the more exercise we do with it, the stronger it gets. So, if we were to use these, it would be like cheating, right? And we want to make our brain strong. So, what is a strategy that we were just doing that you could use to find multiples? What is the strategy called that we were just doing out loud to find multiples? Angel.
I forgot.
You forgot? Okay. Ricardo.
Paper and pencil?
Paper and pencil? Was I using paper and pencil? I was using these, right? But I wasn't really doing much work, right? With paper and pencil. What is the strategy when we're doing 2, 4, 6, 4, 8, 12? What is that strategy? What is it, Haley? Skip counting, okay? So the first strategy we could use is, let's write it down, we could do skip counting. Mia. The number line. So we can use number line, if you like, and do jumps. Because this is like skip counting, right? If you do a number line and you skip count by 2s, right? You're doing 2, 4, you do another jump, it's 6, another jump, 8, and you keep going, right? So it's very similar to skip counting. So those are 4 different ways you can find multiples. 4 different ways you can find multiples, okay? Problem that said, find the first 9 multiples for 2 and 8. For 2 and 8. And then tell me what are the common multiples of 2 and 8. This is how we would do it, okay? Let's write that down. We need to find, what do I need to find? The first 9 multiples. The first 9 my multiples of 2? Okay. And then I need to find the first 9 multiples of 8. And lastly, the common multiples of 2 and 8. So this, if I look at it closely, it has 3 parts. 3 parts that I need to solve. Okay? Twos are fairly easy, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
So that's why we use skip counting. We use skip counting for that. So I'm going to do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. And that leads me to my first 9 multiples, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So those are my multiples of 2. Multiples of 2. Now, I have to figure out my multiples of 8. And most of you know your timetables already, right? So we can do skip counting, but I'm going to use the strategy of using multiplication equations for some of you that aren't fully there with your multiples of 8, okay? But with some more practice, you're going to get there, right? So first, I would do 8 times 1. 8 times 1 equals 8, comma. 8 times 2 equals 16. 8 times 3 equals 24. 8 times 4 equals 8 times 5 equals 8 times 6 equals
48.
8 times 7 equals
66.
and then I'm going to finish them off over here, okay? 8 times 8 equals
64.
and lastly, 8 times 9.
72.
Why am I stopping at 9?
Because you have to do the first.
What?
Because it said that you need to do the first 9.
Because it said to do the first 9 multiples. It could tell you the first 12 multiples. It could tell you the first 3 multiples.
The first 2
It could tell you the first 5 multiples, right? Just depends on the problem. Okay. So now I did my part 1, part 2. Now I have to look at both multiples and see which do they have in common. Which do they have in common? And I'm going to circle those that they have in common. Okay? Which ones do they have in common? Let's go with Reuben. Help me out.
It has 8.
Very good. So we have 8. Okay.
16.
16.